We are Dennis and Brenda Greer from Abilene, Texas, and we have been serving with American Interim Pastor Ministry here in Oxfordshire for the last 6 months. And I'll tell you just briefly how we got here. I had a career for 30 years that ended. We've learned that you use the phrase here, made redundant, and I felt God was calling me to go to seminary. The week after we graduated from seminary, we got a phone call from Chuck that Ducklington Baptist Church was interested in us coming over and interim pastoring them. So in God's perfect timing, as always, it worked out. And Ducklington had been through several years of difficulties and had been made known the option of American Interim Pastors through a man that lives up in Woodstock, Chris Mepham, who is the American Interim Pastors representative here, kind of volunteer. And so Chris played a large role in that as well. But it was the church's decision. They voted to bring us over. It's a great step of faith on their part, obviously, to bring Americans over who we thought spoke the same language, but we don't.
As Dennis was saying, it was 4 years before we really heard anything from American Interim Pastors, and what we didn't realize is while we were growing somewhat impatient with the process was that God had a very specific plan here in Ducklington, and He was working in the life of this church, getting them ready to accept an American pastor and to work with an American pastor. And so when we first got here, some of the things that just really impressed us about the church was that they were very forward-thinking. There was a toddler group already functioning that had been here for 6 years, and they had such a heart to reach out to the young men and young women who were parenting these little toddlers. Monday after Monday, we met with those 20 to 25 young women and their toddlers, and we ended up attending a conference at Didcot about toddler groups and how to expand those toddler groups to have more of a spiritual influence in the life of those young women and men. And so before long, someone had a brainstorm and decided that we should have a toddler picnic. And so we did that on one of the bank holidays and just had a blast with these young couples and their little ones. And little by little, we've seen those relationships deepen. We've had an opportunity to share our faith and to find in many cases that some of those young women do have church families, but in a lot of the cases they don't. And so we're continuing to develop relationships with them in hopes that at some point they will determine that there is a need for Christ in their lives, and they will remember Ducklington Baptist and want to come there and become a part of that.
One of our first impressions when we got here is just how friendly everyone was and continues to be. We had heard so much from people who'd been to England about the British Reserve, and I think we were expecting people not to be as friendly, but everyone has been so welcoming. The church has just gone out of their way to make us feel at home and to adopt us into their church family, and we have loved that. We've built great relationships with them, as well as our neighbors and other people in the area, the mums and the dads from the toddler groups. We've got great friendships, and amazing those things happen within just a few months period of time.
As Americans, we were quite interested in the fact and enjoyed very much the fact that everything blooms in England. We're not used to that back home in Texas. And so, as is a normal activity in many of the villages, Ducklington had open gardens in June. And we thought, what a great opportunity. We'll have people coming into the church to use the facilities, as well as being able to sit down and have a cup of tea with them. But so many times those people bring small children with them. So we also made a plan to have a story time a couple of times each day on Saturday and Sunday, so that we could be able to tell and incorporate a little bit of God's story of how things grow and share that with the children that came. So we used the parable of the sower, and we had a story time and a craft time. And that was a lot of fun. It also gave us an opportunity as a church family to all be there. And when we didn't have someone in the church having a cup of tea with us, or when we didn't have a little child to tell a story to, we spent a lot of time as a church family just deepening that relationship. And that's probably one of the things that we have seen as far as a development since we have been here, is that this church family has grown much deeper and much more unified as we have ministered together, as we've done Bible study together, and as we've prayed together. Early on, we were told by the church secretary that he felt like very strongly that we should spend more time in prayer together. And so weekly we have gathered as a church body and prayed on Wednesday evenings.
I do think probably one of the greatest strengths we have seen, the church has gotten to know each other better, so the relationships are definitely much better. There's more unity, and I think having one minister here for 6 months has been a good thing. I'm very appreciative to the area churches. For about 18 months before we came, there were 4 churches in the area that had supplied ministers and music teams every week. So it's great to see the unity amongst the Baptist churches in the area. We have really sensed that, and we've become part of that. We've participated in events of the other Baptist churches, and they've participated in ours, and there's a really a great bond here amongst the churches, and they really support each other a lot.
During the time we've been here, we've enjoyed a Monday night Bible study with a group of the church members. And one of the things that we did this spring was to go through the publication called Life Size. And at the end of that DVD series, we decided that we would meet one more time and have just a brainstorming session. And out of that brainstorming session came some wonderful ideas from the church members, not from us at all, but from the church members. Things like the fact that our building is 150 years old on the outside, but it doesn't look that way on the inside. It looks quite contemporary, quite new. It's multi-purpose. It's where on Sunday we can line up chairs and have church, but on Monday we can put toys out and have toddler group. So it's a very versatile building. So we thought of the idea of putting a new front door on the building that would have glass in it, so that people as they walk by on the sidewalk could actually see inside the church and see that it's quite up to date and quite contemporary. But not only to have the church ready to use on Monday mornings for a toddler group, but to also have that church available and that building available for other community activities. We have a group that meets there one Wednesday afternoon a month called Village Cafe, where people can just sit around and have a cup of tea and just enjoy conversation. Another thing is that the local Women's Institute meets there. So to have our building open during the week just adds more exposure to the fact that there's life there.
But there are so many things that we have loved about England, and so many things that we will certainly miss when we leave. We love your temperatures. We won't have that when we get home. But I think more than anything, we'll think about the people, just the relationships that have formed, and that's a good thing, because those are the kind of things that God will use with the people that will be taking our place. There is a couple that will be coming tomorrow, actually, and we'll spend a few days with them, and they will be here to serve for 6 months. So I think we have also come to realize that this is a teamwork effort, and hopefully over the course of a couple of years, with different couples coming every 6 months, all of us having some things we do better than others, that God will use us as a team to accomplish what He wants to accomplish in Ducklinton Baptist Church.